You can grow into a more confident person, and this video will explain how. I'm Katie Hines, and I'm a program manager for cognitive training programs at the Center for BrainHealth. We're a research institution at the University of Texas at Dallas, and we focus on empowering people to better understand, address, and be proactive about their own brain health. Here on this YouTube channel, we share expert talks and tips to help you develop a stronger and healthier brain. Give us a follow so you don't miss out on any of our videos. Today we're here to share 3 ways that you can protect your confidence, straight from one of the preeminent researchers in the field, Dr. Ian Robertson. He literally wrote the book on confidence and is one of the foremost researchers in this field. You can see all of his accolades in the video description. Without further ado, here's Dr. Ian Robertson with his definition of confidence and his advice for how to protect it.
What actually is this stuff that we call confidence? I've spent 2 or 3 years, or maybe 3 years, really trying to work out what are its constituents, what is its chemical composition, what is this stuff? And you know, if once you start writing and thinking and discussing confidence, and listen to the radio or the television or to podcasts, watch sport, scarcely a 30-second period goes by in any text, in any discussion without the word confidence coming. Any discussion of any baseball, any football, ice hockey, confidence, even in the economy, when you hear economists on, when you hear politicians on, confidence. It's a hugely used word, and yet we don't, I didn't, before I wrote this book, I didn't really understand what it is. And what I discovered was that this incredible thing is not just one thing, it's a series of mental and emotional and behavioral habits in our individual brains, but it's also remarkable, something that's contagious, that can exist in a collective brain, in a collectivity of even millions of people. And one of the best examples of that, I think, would be the amazing achievement of humanity, of the United States, of landing a person on the moon. 8 years after President John F. Kennedy said, by the end of the decade, we will put a person on the moon. Now that was a pretty remarkable projection into the future because the technologies didn't exist. The computers didn't exist. The materials didn't exist. This was a human being, not just one human being, a whole country of human beings, millions of human beings coming together behind a collective belief that we can do this. And that's what makes humans different from all other species. Yes, language does, but some other species of language. Problem solving does, but some other, even birds can do problem solving. Tool use similarly. Empathy is shown in some other species. Working together in groups, some other species. These all distinguish humans from other species, but not perfectly, because there's an overlap. In contrast, this ability to project ourselves into the future, to imagine a future state of the world, including the internal world, because we're talking about inside our own heads here as well, to imagine a future state that does not yet exist, and then to work towards creating that is, I believe, not only the defining quality of the human mind and brain, but it's the source and the basis of all of our achievements of civilization, including, for instance, the mere fact that I can be here with my dear colleagues in Dallas, about 5,000 miles away. Colleague Sandy Chapman, the leader of the BrainHealth project, and my other colleagues, Jeff Ling and Tom Leppard, that we have imagined a future state of the world where the world sees brain health as a value that they're going to work towards, we are going to work towards, to improving and enhancing. And if we do that, we improve everything. We improve our physical health, we improve our emotional health, we improve our ability to innovate, to work together, and we improve our well-being. Now, confidence is not optimism. It overlaps with optimism. Self-esteem is a poor predictor of people's ability to achieve educational goals and to progress, including career goals. Confidence is the critical element. When you project yourself forward into a future state, your brain registers that, the can-do elements of that, as a success. And when our brain experiences a success, it responds with that good feeling we get. And that good feeling we get is reflected, depends on this activity in the dopamine net. So if we confidently predict we can do something, our brains actually produces the state as if we had done it, because also our brain has been improved through, for instance, the dopamine's effects on the frontal lobes and the norepinephrine levels being nearer the sweet spot in the ways I described earlier. So we're more likely to actually do the thing that we believe we can do, and our brain gets the double whammy. First, when we predict we can do it, and secondly, when we actually do it. And if you look at people of quite advanced ages in the world who are still incredibly active and engaged and valued, the David Attenboroughs in the world, for instance, in their 90s, many other examples of people still working, their brains, I predict, would look much more like the young brains here because of the constant activation of the reward network that comes from their confidence in being able to do stuff. And you can see it in not just in age, but in where you see yourself, where you see your social rank. People can very readily put themselves onto a ladder of the social status. And the more this is Martinez's work in Columbia University in New York, the higher you perceive your social status to be, the higher the levels of this critical neurotransmitter in your brain reward network are. Now, the good news here is this is not an inevitable effect of your social status, because if you believe you have control over your world, confidence in other words, this relationship is hugely weak. So I just ask you to think of the potential uniforms that people can put on, which can subtract from their confidence, which can inhibit these incredibly powerful brain processes that arise when we feel confident that we can do and that things can happen. Age is one of them, race is another, sex is another. Think of prejudices about women's visuospatial abilities, which undercut their confidence and lead to self-fulfilling prophecies because the low confidence increases anxiety, interferes with brain function, and means they perform poorer on tests in which they believe they're supposedly poorer at, when in fact their capacities to do these tests are just as good as men. It can happen with physical appearance, with socioeconomic status, with disability, all these categories of humans for which there are stereotypes. These stereotypes are some of the most critical, shall we call it, corrosives of confidence. Now, protectors of confidence, on the other hand, are attention, and particularly are a feeling that we can control our attention. Let me tell you a little story here about golf. And this golfer on the right is the Irish golfer Padraig Harrington. And in 2007, he was at the 17th hole on the cusp of winning the British Open, which is one of the great golf prizes. And he describes that at the 17th hole, he said he'd been completely in the flow, absolutely playing a faultless game. He was ahead of Sergio Garcia. And he said something happened at the top of my swing that I don't know what it was, but he hit the ball and he hit it into the Barry burn. Okay, that was silly. Walked up, took the penalty shot, still in control, hit it again, back into the Barry burn. Twice, in front of millions of people watching on television, tens of thousands of people, spectators. And he said, I felt humiliated. My world collapsed inside. All the images, the thoughts of winning that trophy crumbled before my eyes. I just thought, that's it, I'm finished. I've humiliated myself in front of millions of people. Now, look at his face as he walked up. This is him walking up to take the next penalty shot. And that's his caddy, Ronan Flood, beside him, who's also his brother-in-law. And notice the tense expression on Harrington's face, and his right hand is slightly clasped, because he said what Ronan Flood was saying to him made him want to hit him. And he said if he'd been holding his golf club, he would have hit him, but Ronan Flood had his golf club, so he didn't hit him. But what Ronan Flood was saying to him was this: you are the best chipper and putter in the world. You are the best chipper and putter in the world. You are the best chipper and putter in the world. On and on, until he was driving Harrington mad. It was almost hypnotic. But then he came to the ball, handed him his club, chipped it beautifully onto the green, putted it into the hole, and did it. He passed Sergio Garcia on the way to the 18th hole. He gave him a big grin because Sergio Garcia could see now he was going to be the winner of the Open. But no, he played the 18th hole very well also, and tied with Garcia. So they had a playoff and Harrington won. Huge celebrations. Back to the clubhouse, and Flood and Harrington didn't see each other for hours. Only later that evening, into the limo to go back to the hotel, into the car, Harrington turned to Flood and said, you know, you saved my bacon out there. After I hit these 2 balls into the river, I thought I was finished. I didn't think I had a chance. And he noticed that Flood was laughing. He said, why are you laughing? And Flood said, I didn't think you had a chance either. In other words, Flood was just saying the words. And he was saying them in a way that felt fake to Harrington, because Harrington was full of all these terrible thoughts of failure, of disappointment, of humiliation. But essentially what Flood was doing was hacking into Harrington's brain to control his attention. So by the end of that long walk, all that was in Harrington's mind was a limited set of actions, chipping and putting, for which he had long positive memories in his memory bank. There were no thoughts and anticipations and confident expectations of being able to chip and putt. There were no thoughts in his mind of either great success, winning the Open, or great failure, humiliation. His emotional world, his consciousness had been hacked, his attention controlled and handed over to him, so that all that was there now was the confidence in a specific limited set of actions that he could take. And because his attention was now focused on that limited goal, it wasn't disrupted by all the big thoughts. And he performed that, he achieved that goal because of that control of attention. And that's one of the wonderful things about the BrainHealth project, about Sandy Chapman's SMART training. It trains you to learn to control your attention. And that's why the benefits of it extend way beyond cognitive function into emotional function. Because if you can control your attention, you can control your behavior, you can control your well-being, you can control your emotional states. But that requires confidence. And confidence and control are twin systems. And attention is a critical domain for allowing confidence to express itself and do its magic. Another critical protector of confidence is the self-affirmation of values. A lot of us spend a lot of our time trying to protect our sense of self-worth, protect our egos from humiliation. One of the greatest sources of stress is the negative evaluation of other people. Well, there's a wonderful set of studies showing that if you ask people to think carefully about what their core values are, what makes them who they are, what are the ground rules for you? Is it your integrity? Is it your loyalty? Is it your religious beliefs? Is it your sense of purpose or mission in life? Is it your relationships with other people? To the extent that you bring these to mind, and maybe even write a little mini essay just about what your values are, why you have them, and what they mean to you, that creates a state of the brain which is one of the great protectors of the feeling of humiliation, of attributing negative beliefs to other people about you. And that, therefore, is an amazing way of protecting your confidence by rooting yourself in your values. And you can actually see this in when you get people to do what this is called self-affirmation, that in all sorts of situations, getting people to affirm their values like this also ramps down, decreases activity in the brain's emotional circuits in the amygdala, for instance, increases self-reflection in the middle of the frontal lobes, and makes people more likely, for instance, to respond constructively to a negative health message. So because if you get a health message, say, look, you're very overweight, if you really have to do something about this, or there will be a whole lot of poor health consequences for you. A lot of people who are overweight, when they hear that, their brain closes down because it's too threatening a message, and there's a denial comes in. But if you get people to self-affirm before they hear that message, they're much more likely to take it in and to take action. So self-affirmation really is a critical cornerstone of confidence. It's a bedrock of values. The final protector of confidence, and I've only been able to give you a small selection of all the various things that build or corrode confidence, but our social network is incredibly important for protecting of confidence. And I showed you earlier the relationship between the dopamine receptors in the brain's reward network and your perceived social status. But you also got a very similar relationship between your perceived social support, the extent to which you feel to an extent held in other people's minds. And the more you feel connected with other people, the higher your levels of dopamine activity in the brain's reward network. And that, as we've seen, is the cornerstone, the biological cornerstone of confidence, because of the increased likelihood of taking action, the increased motivation, the reduced anxiety, and the lifted mood. So we are a connected set of brains. We weren't designed to be individual brains. We were designed to be networked with other brains. We are a group species. We evolved that way. And the extent that we feel part of a group, connected with a group, has profound effects on our brain, profound effects on our confidence, and therefore incredibly strong effects on our intellectual, our emotional, and indeed our spiritual lives.
We just heard from Dr. Ian Robertson about the 3 things you need to protect your confidence: control of your attention, self-affirmation of values, and maintaining a strong social network. By developing brain healthy habits and retraining your brain, increased confidence is only the tip of the iceberg for what your brain can accomplish. Do you want to know if your daily habits are toxic to your brain health? Rate yourself by answering these 8 quick questions and see if your daily habits are helpful or harmful to your brain health by clicking on the link in the video.